Well, I certainly agree that the compensation wouldn't be the motivating factor for me, but I would. What a fascinating subject, first of all, and something that's really interesting to me from a personal perspective because I've seen moments. You certainly get to see glimpses of both things happening in tandem, where you have personal accountability and still alignment towards the greater good. It's difficult to sustain, but when I was a fighter pilot, I would definitely argue that we had that in fighter squadrons where we were competing with one another. We knew that it was only a few of us that could move on to the next good assignment, and yet we would share best practices, share our lessons learned, share everything we could for the good of the entire team because we were committed to one goal as a unit. And I don't know if that's because their lives are on the line or because the culture was so phenomenal, and we hired and assessed each other for that culture constantly and reinforced that. But it's an interesting phenomenon that particularly hearing you say, I've studied it in many places and have a hard time finding it. I have been exposed to it in the past. Like I said, it's hard to sustain it, but I've certainly seen it.
Yeah, well, exactly. The only way to manage this is through leadership, culture, and a common purpose. So the way I call it is non-material incentives. The reason why a team would work together, both with individual accountability and cooperation, is because every individual wants a culture in the unit and a discipline that will encourage people to do that and will censor them for not doing that. And then the observation is not from the boss, but it's a cultural norm that everybody enforces and upholds. And that is exactly the best way to manage. Now, in your case, because you have a noble purpose, because you feel committed to the mission, because you're fighting for something that's very meaningful to all of you, you actually manage that problem really, really well. In business, most leaders don't really have thought carefully about how to inspire the people in the organization to have the same commitment to the mission that you are describing. That's exactly what I wrote the book about, is how do you create the kind of organization where individual accountability and cooperation will work in tandem.
So you're saying leadership, culture, and what was the third thing, the third element that's necessary to create this environment?
The common purpose.
How do you think that a corporation can help to create that inspiring common purpose? Because I agree with you. I mean, it was easier for us as fighter pilots to be able to say, this is noble, this has a strong why behind it, Simon Sinek style. But how do you do that in a corporation? How do you create that sense of purpose in your eyes?
Well, I don't think it's that hard. I think it requires seeing beyond the apparent. Let me tell you an example, something that happened to me when I was working with an insurance company, and I was going to go to their headquarters, and I was going to teach for 3 weeks. And my 7-year-old daughter just came with 3 eyes and said, "Daddy, please don't go." And I was just heartbroken. How do I explain to my daughter that I gotta go to work, and then I choose to go because it's not that I have to, but that's what I've chosen to do with my life. So I told Michelle, look, dear, if I died, it would be really awful. I would miss you, and you miss me, and there would be a lot of things we can do together. And she was looking at me and nodding, opening her eyes wide. And then I said, but it would be worse. And she said, why? I said, oh, because mommy would have to go to work, and then you probably couldn't keep this house, and you couldn't continue going to the private school you're going, and maybe you have to give up the car, and you can go to college. And by this time, she was freaking out and really, really upset. And I said, well, no, but you see, these people, I pay them every month. And if something ever happened to me, they would give mommy enough money so that you would have all the money you need for a long time until you finish college. And that's what these people do with a lot of parents that can take care of their children and can go out into a sometimes dangerous world with peace of mind. And then and she looked at me and said, "Just go, Daddy, please go." And it makes me cry just thinking about it. And when I went to this company, I told them the story, and one of the executive team members just said, oh, you should be selling insurance. But then another one interrupted us, and no, we don't sell insurance, we sell love. I thought that was very, very wise because it's true. It really is a superpower to allow people to take care of their loved ones even beyond their physical existence. I know it doesn't sound like much when you say, "Oh, well, it's life insurance," but it's not life insurance. It's a means to express a love that transcends your life or my life in this case. If I feel proud of being a consultant for them, why would the people in the company not feel proud? And I think every business at its heart has a very noble mission. You just have to see through the product and understand the human concern that that product is taking care of. Because if some people's lives were not being made better off by the mission of the organization would not survive in the market. I'm talking about organizations